I'm going to share what may be a controversial opinion about what I believe it takes to pass the NCIDQ exam, and it's this. How much you study is not nearly as important as your test-taking strategies. The thing about the NCIDQ is that, yes, you do need to have adequate knowledge in all of the topics tested and study your ass off, for lack of a better term. But just like any other test, if you are the smartest person in the world or the best designer that ever lived, if you're a bad test taker, you could still literally fail anything. What's up, designers? My name is Kelsey. I'm an I'm an NCIDQ certified interior designer and the owner of 𝐂𝐲, a Manhattan-based design studio specializing in commercial spaces. My mission is to help other designers excel in their career while promoting transparency about the industry itself. Get a little tongue-tied today. As someone who has not only taken the NCIDQ exam, but failed a portion of it and had to retake it a second time, I would consider myself well-versed in what it takes to pass and learned why I probably failed it the first time. And you may be thinking, well, Kelsey, why the hell would I take advice from someone who didn't even pass on the first try? Valid. For me, failing taught me so much more about what I actually needed to know to pass the exam, and the answer wasn't simply study more. So in this video, my goal is to give you my top 5 test-taking strategies that I believe are the most effective ways to not only pass the NCIDQ exam, but to do it in a confident and stress-free manner. We love that. So without further ado, please step into my studio. My first strategy is organize your time. This first strategy is going to be a long one. I'm talking about it first because in my opinion, this is the most crucial piece to passing the NCIDQ, especially the practicum. The practicum is essentially a test of speed, not of knowledge, and I can't tell you how many people I spoke to who took this portion of the test and never even finished it because they ran out of time. It's not as important for the 𝐈𝐷𝐹𝐋 and 𝐈DPX. I was at least able to finish those with plenty of time left, as did most of my friends and colleagues, but it's still important to keep track of your time. For the 𝐈DFX, you're given 3 hours to answer 125 multiple choice questions. 25 of those questions are actually pilot questions, meaning they don't count towards your overall score. The CIDQ threw those in there to test them out for future versions. Kind of like your doctor giving you a sugar pill instead of the real medication. Nonetheless, you won't know which is the real question and which is a pilot question, so you need to account for answering all 125 within that time given to you. If we divide 3 hours or 180 minutes by 125 questions, you have 1.44 minutes to answer each question, which is equivalent to roughly 1 minute and 26 seconds. But you hopefully don't need that long to answer every question, so if you allocate, let's say, 1 minute per question, you can complete the 𝐈DFX in only 2 hours and 5 minutes. This gives you a full 55 minutes to check your answers or go back and spend more time on a question that you're not so confident about. Of course, checking the clock every single minute to make sure you're not spending more than 60 seconds exactly on every single question is inherently a complete waste of valuable time. So I'd recommend creating checkpoints to see if you're on track. For example, once you get to question number 30, see how much time you've spent thus far. If you've spent less than 30 minutes on those questions, you're making great time. But if you've spent more than 30 minutes, then that's a sign you're spending way too much time on a question and you need to keep it moving a little bit faster. The NCIDQ will show you a time countdown on your screen and tell you how much time you have left in the exam. So in order to keep track of your time, you'll kind of need to count backwards. Feel free to create your own timing structure, but this is the structure that I mapped out that worked best for me. And feel free to pause this video right here and screenshot this. For the 𝐈DPX, you have 4 hours to complete 175 multiple choice questions, 25 of which are pilot questions. If we spend 1 minute on each question again, it would only take us 2 hours and 55 minutes to answer all 175 questions, giving us 1 hour and 5 minutes to check our answers. And see here an example of what that timing structure could look like. These may be too many checkpoints for you, so if you want to make it even simpler for yourself, you can increase the checkpoints to every hour you check your time, or even just decide what your halfway point is going to be. Like, you know, at this halfway point, I have to have half the questions completed. Just make sure that your checkpoints aren't too large, because if you get to your halfway point and you realize that you're really running behind schedule, you don't have as much time to make up in the second half of the test. The practicum is set up in a unique fashion where you have 3 separate case studies: small commercial, large commercial, and multifamily residential, rather than just like a straight up list of multiple choice questions. So we need to break up our time a little bit differently for this section. Before we do that, I cannot stress this important fact enough to you. So please come on in a little bit closer. Once you complete one case study and move on to the next, you cannot go back to the previous case study to check your answers. Once you're done, you're done. Having that knowledge, we need to allocate a small amount of extra time at the end of each case study to check our answers before moving on to the next, rather than leaving a large amount of extra time at the end of the entire practicum exam. You're given 4 hours total to complete 3 sections on the practicum exam. How much time you spend on each section is up to you, but if we split 4 hours into 3 equal portions, you would have 80 minutes, or 1 hour and 20 minutes, to complete each section, which includes the time needed to check your answers. So let's make it simple and say that you should allocate 1 hour to answer the questions in a section and 20 minutes to check your answers in that same section. Here's what that timetable would look like. If you happen to finish a case study section and check your answers in less than 1 hour and 20 minutes, I would actually encourage you to move on and use that extra time on another case study. You'll find that some will be easier than others, so it's helpful to use that extra time if you actually need it on a more difficult case study, maybe that you haven't even gotten to yet. Again, feel free to screenshot these timetables to use as a reference when planning for your exam or creating your own checkpoints. A very important thing to note is that you will not be able to bring these into the exam with you. What I did is just become generally familiar with those time checkpoints I set for myself, and as soon as you sit down at the computer, write them down on the blank piece of paper that they'll give you in the Proctor Center. That way, you can erase them from your mind and worry about the actual questions rather than, damn, what time was I supposed to be done with question number 60? Another strategy that goes hand in hand with your timing strategy is to answer first, check it later. There's a feature on the exam that allows you to flag questions. If I'm answering a question and I either don't know the answer or I'm running a little bit behind schedule because I've set up my timing checkpoints and I'm really stuck on a question, I will make an educated guess and then flag that question so I know I need to come back to that once I've answered all the questions in that section. There's a better chance of you getting a higher score if you just simply answer all of the questions, even if you aren't super confident in them, rather than spending a lot of time on each question but ultimately not finishing the test. You're essentially leaving points on the table. Statistically speaking, monkeys have a decent chance of passing tests when they're just selecting random multiple choice questions. So if you're really in a crunch at the end of an exam, select something as an answer, because then at least you have a shot of getting it right versus no shot at all. I did not pass the practicum section on the first try. I will admit that. And I really believe it was because I spent so much time searching through the code to try and find the answers I needed. Because boy, that code is dense and lengthy. So the second time I took it, I felt like I moved faster through it because I had seen it before and I knew what sections to look in to find the answers. But because you won't be able to see what the code they give you looks like, my biggest piece of advice to tackle this problem is to use the search bar as much as possible. You will see a word search bar on the code tab where you'll type in, for example, plumbing, and it will flag all the times the word plumbing is mentioned, just like if you were to search it in any document or on the internet. This will save you an incredible amount of time rather than searching through every page of the text. Become best friends with that search bar. Use more specific words to make sure you're finding the right code information. For example, if you're looking for the maximum distance a sconce can protrude from the wall per ADA code, instead of typing in ADA, which could bring up a number of results, type in protrude. Or if you think you know the answer and just want to verify it, type in the number. Like, okay, I know the answer's 4 inches, but I want to confirm that. I'll type in 4 inches and see what comes up. The most annoying thing about the NCIDQ exam is that it's not only a test of speed, it's a test to see how well you know David Kent Ballast, the author of the NCIDQ Reference Manual study book. When you're answering questions relating to professional practice or best design practices, basically any question where the answer is subjective rather than a hard number, don't answer the question how you would in your real professional life. Answer the question as if you are David himself. How would the study book approach this question based on your readings. For example, let's say they ask you, what's the best way to document a project program? It doesn't matter what you think is the best way or a way that you've used in the past. What would David say is the best way? Are you surprised that I'm simply telling you to read the question? Because I'm not. Because more often than you think, you will get questions wrong simply because you didn't actually read the question. You skimmed it, you glazed over it, or maybe read it a different way than what is actually written. It happens. You're tired, you're hungry, you've been taking this test for over 3 hours already, and all you want to do is get out of that dingy test center and drink a margarita. Maybe they'll try to trick you up and write it in a way that's confusing, or maybe you'll think that they're asking you something else, but answer the question exactly according to what is written. Don't try to read between the lines, just take the question at face value. The NCIDQ is an intensive and exhausting exam, so it's easy to get frazzled and frustrated, and therefore select completely wrong answers because you got yourself all in a tizzy. So my next advice is to chill the f*** out. Even if you've noticed that you're running a little bit behind schedule, don't freak out. Stay calm, stay confident, focus on the question in front of you, and don't rush just because you can't stop thinking about that damn margarita. I could go for a margarita right now. If you're looking for more NCIDQ test prep videos, then check out my NCIDQ video playlist here. And if you're still on your study journey or have yet to apply for the exam, then you're in luck because I'm working on launching an NCIDQ study guide course very soon. So if you're interested in that, then click the link down below in the description box to be added to the waitlist to be the first to know when it launches. I'll see you next time for more educational interior design videos. Thanks for watching and happy studying.